My HOA is trying to steal my house because they don't know who my dad is. Hey Reddit, so I'm Ethan, 37, and I'm in this insane situation with my HOA. My dad, rest his soul, was a real estate shark. He taught me everything I know about property rights and always said, never back down. My mom is the voice of reason, always thinking strategically. They basically let me fight my own battles, which has always worked until now. This new HOA board is power tripping, hitting me with ridiculous fines and rules. They're even threatening to expose how much land I own in the community to somehow use it against me. It's all so shady. I'm about to lose it. Where do I even begin with this mess? So, I come home from work one Tuesday, totally normal day, thinking about grilling some steaks. And there it is, stuck to my door like a damn parasite, a bright orange violation notice. My stomach dropped. I ripped it open and my blood ran cold. They were demanding I remove my perfectly manicured, professionally landscaped front yard shrubs, the ones I had specific written approval for before I even planted them. The notice said they violated some new, arbitrary height restriction. Are you kidding me? I felt a wave of nausea. This couldn't be happening. I grabbed the original approval documents, the ones with the HOA president's signature from just 2 years ago, and marched straight to his house, practically shaking with rage. He opened the door all smug and I shoved the papers in his face. What the hell is this? I asked, my voice trembling. He glanced at them, a smirk spreading across his face. Those are outdated, he said, as if I was an idiot. The new rules supersede them. Remove the shrubs or face daily fines. Outdated, daily fines. My vision went blurry for a second. I wanted to punch him in his smug face, but I took a deep breath. These are official documents, I said, trying to stay calm. You can't just ignore them, he just shrugged. We can and we did. You have 7 days. He closed the door in my face. In my face, I stood there for a minute, completely stunned. It felt like a physical blow. I drove home in a daze, the violation notice clutched in my hand. My mom called, asking about my day. I just blurted out the whole story, my voice cracking. She was sympathetic, of course, but also practical. Okay, honey, deep breaths, we'll figure this out, just don't do anything rash. Rash, they were trying to destroy my property, and she was telling me not to be rash. I felt so betrayed, not just by the HOA, but by the whole system. Like the world had suddenly tilted on its axis, and I was sliding into some insane HOA hell. I sat on my porch, staring at my beautiful, now apparently illegal shrubs, and felt a cold dread creep in. This wasn't just about the shrubs. This was about power. They were testing me. And I knew, deep down, that this was just the beginning. Okay, Reddit, strap in, because this is where things get really messed up. I tried to be reasonable, I really did. I went to the next HOA meeting, armed with my documents, ready to calmly present my case. I even wore a tie. Big mistake. The room was packed. All the Karens and Kens of the neighborhood, staring at me like I was some kind of criminal. The HOA president, this weasel named Bob, called the meeting to order. When it was my turn, I stood up, my hands shaking a little, and explained the situation, showing everyone the original landscaping approval. This clearly shows I had permission to plant these shrubs, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Bob looked at me with this condescending smirk. We've already reviewed this, Mr. Ethan, he said, his voice dripping with fake concern. These documents appear to be forged. Forged, my jaw dropped. A gasp rippled through the room. I could feel my face turning red. Forged, I repeated, my voice rising. That's ridiculous. You signed this yourself 2 years ago, Bob just shrugged. I have no recollection of signing such a document. Perhaps you should consult a lawyer. He then moved on to the next agenda item, as if I hadn't just been publicly accused of forgery. I sat down, completely humiliated. The room was buzzing with whispers. I felt like everyone was staring at me, judging me. My hands were clammy, my heart pounding in my chest. I called my mom afterwards, practically screaming into the phone. They said I forged the documents. They're trying to ruin me. Her response. Honey, are you sure you didn't misplace a decimal point or something? Maybe they're just confused. Confused, they called me a forger. I went over to my parents' house that night, still fuming. I told them everything, replaying the whole humiliating scene. My dad, instead of offering support, started lecturing me. You need to be smarter about this, Ethan, he said, shaking his head. You're letting them get to you. You need to play the game. Play the game, I yelled. They're accusing me of forgery. What game am I supposed to play? My mom chimed in, honey, maybe you should just apologize to the board. Smooth things over. It's not worth fighting over some bushes. Some bushes? This wasn't about the damn bushes, it was about principle, about being treated with respect, about not being bullied in my own home. That's when it hit me. This wasn't normal. This wasn't how a family was supposed to react. They weren't on my side. They weren't even trying to understand. They were more concerned with appearances and avoiding conflict than with defending me. I felt a wave of despair wash over me. I was completely alone in this fight. And I knew, with chilling certainty, that things were only going to get worse. A week later, and it's like living in a freaking nightmare. Not only are they still hitting me with BS fines, but now they've escalated to full-blown psychological warfare. I came home yesterday to find my perfectly legal, code-compliant front door painted bright pink. Bright, freaking, pink, and there, taped to the now Pepto-Bismol colored door, was another violation notice, this time for unapproved exterior paint color. I almost laughed, almost, but the real kicker. The HOA president's wife, Carol, a woman who I've never even spoken to, started a neighborhood beautification committee and has been going door to door, showing people pictures of my pink door and my overgrown shrubs. Overgrown? They're azaleas, Carol, they bloom, it's called landscaping. She's telling everyone I'm destroying property values and that I'm a menace to the community. A menace, seriously. I'm starting to think these people need a hobby. My phone has been blowing up with calls from neighbors, some concerned, some downright hostile. Ethan, what's going on with your house? One asked, her voice dripping with disapproval. Another just straight up told me to fix my crap or they'd call the city, for having a pink door and some slightly taller than regulation shrubs. I'm losing my mind. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I'm constantly on edge, waiting for the next attack. My girlfriend is starting to get freaked out. Maybe you should just paint the door, Ethan, she said last night, her voice tight with worry. It's not worth all the stress. I know she's trying to be helpful, but it just makes me feel even more alone. I called my mom again, hoping for some support, some advice, anything. But she just kept saying, honey, just comply. It's not worth fighting, think of your health. My health, they're the ONES making me sick. This morning I found a bag of dog poop on my doorstep, a bag, OF dog poop, that's when I snapped. This isn't about shrubs or paint colors anymore. This is about harassment. This is about bullying. This is war. I'm done playing nice. I'm done trying to reason with these lunatics. I'm going to fight back, and I'm going to win. So my mom came over for dinner last night. I hadn't really told her the full extent of the crazy, you know. I mean, she knew about the shrubs and the pink door, but I downplayed the Carol-led smear campaign and the dog poop incident. I just felt ashamed, I guess, like I was failing somehow. We were sitting at the table, picking at our lasagna. I'd lost my appetite completely, and I just kind of blurted it out. Mom, I said, my voice shaking, they hate me, they all hate me, they think I'm some kind of monster. She looked at me, her brow furrowed. Ethan, what are you talking about? I told her everything. About Carol's beautification committee, the whispers, the phone calls, the dog poop. I even showed her the pictures Carol had been circulating. My voice cracked as I described how isolated and humiliated I felt. My mom was silent for a minute, just staring at the pictures. Then her eyes narrowed and she slammed her hand on the table. Are you kidding me? She exploded. That pink door's atrocious. And dog poop, ETHAN, this is unacceptable. It was the first time someone had actually validated my feelings. I'd been expecting her to tell me to just give in, to apologize, to be the bigger person. But she didn't. She was angry, for me. Honey, she said, her voice softening, these people are bullies, plain and simple, and you know what bullies do, they back down when they realize you're not an easy target. She reached across the table and took my hand. You need to fight back, Ethan. You need to show them you're not going to be intimidated. You need to gather evidence, document everything. Names, dates, times, witnesses, everything. Her words were like a shot of adrenaline. Suddenly, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe I wasn't crazy, maybe I wasn't alone, maybe I could actually win this. Your father, she continued, always said, knowledge is power. He was right. Find out everything you can about this HOA, their bylaws, their finances, their history. There's always a weakness, Ethan, you just have to find it. I looked at my mom, really looked at her, and saw not just my mother but a strategist, a fighter. She wasn't just telling me to fight back, she was giving me the tools to do it. And in that moment everything changed. I wasn't a victim anymore, I was a warrior, and I was ready for war. Okay, Reddit, so here's the final straw. I was already at my wit's end, right? Pink door, dog poop, Carol's smear campaign, the whole 9 yards. I was following my mom's advice, documenting everything, digging into the HOA's financials, trying to find their weakness. I was spending every spare minute poring over bylaws, meeting minutes, anything I could get my hands on. I was exhausted, stressed, and starting to feel like I was losing my grip. Then, the eviction notice arrived. I came home from work to find a thick, official-looking envelope taped to my door. My heart hammered in my chest as I ripped it open. Inside, in bold, terrifying letters, were the words, "Notice of eviction proceedings. Eviction, for shrubs, for a pink door, for having the audacity to challenge their power." I sank to my knees, the paper fluttering to the ground. The world seemed to tilt, the air thick and heavy. I couldn't breathe. This wasn't a game anymore. They were trying to take my home. The house my dad had left me. The house I'd poured my heart and soul into. I sat there on the floor for what felt like hours, the eviction notice clutched in my hand. My mind raced, a chaotic jumble of fear, anger, and disbelief. How could this be happening? Was this even real? Then, a wave of icy calm washed over me. It was like a switch had flipped in my brain. The fear didn't disappear, but it was replaced by something else. Something harder, colder, resolve. I stood up, picked up the eviction notice, and walked inside. I poured myself a glass of whiskey, sat down at the kitchen table, and started to read. Every word, every clause, every legalistic phrase. And as I read, a slow, burning rage began to build inside me. This wasn't just about petty HOA rules anymore. This was about power, about corruption. About a group of small-minded tyrants who were abusing their authority to terrorize their neighbors. And in that moment, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let them win. I wasn't going to back down. I was going to fight, and I was going to fight dirty. I called my mom. "They're trying to evict me," I said, my voice flat. "What?" she shrieked. "Ethan, this is insane. We need to." "I know what we need to do," I interrupted. "I'm going to expose them, all of them. I'm going to bring this whole corrupt HOA down." And that, Reddit, is where the real fun begins. All right, Reddit, you wanted to know how I prepped for war? Here's the breakdown. This wasn't just about showing up and yelling. This was about systematically dismantling their power. First, I gathered everything. And I mean everything. Every single piece of paper related to my house, the HOA, and my dad's dealings. I'm talking original purchase agreements, landscaping approvals, HOA bylaws, meeting minutes, financial statements, the WORKS. I even dug through my dad's old files just in case. He was meticulous with his records, thank God. This was like assembling a nuclear arsenal of documentation. Then, I started digging deeper into the HOA's history. I went full-on internet sleuth, researching past board members, lawsuits, anything that could give me leverage. And that's where I hit PAYDIRT. Remember how I said my dad was a real estate shark? Turns out, he wasn't just involved in MY House. He'd quietly invested in several undeveloped lots around the neighborhood years ago. Lots that, according to the meticulously documented deeds I found, thanks Dad, gave me a huge chunk of voting power within the HOA. They had no idea. This was my ace in the hole. I also started recording everything. Every interaction with the HOA, every snide comment from Carol, every whispered conversation I overheard. My phone became my personal black box, capturing all their shady dealings. I even invested in a decent voice recorder just in case. Paranoia? Maybe, but justified. My strategy was simple: hit them with facts, not emotions. Expose their procedural violations, their lies, their abuse of power. And when they inevitably tried to dismiss me, boom, drop the bombshell about the land ownership. I wanted to see the color drain from their faces. I wanted to see them squirm. I knew this was risky. Exposing my holdings could paint a target on my back. But honestly, at that point, I didn't care. They'd already tried to take my house. What more could they do? Finally, and maybe most importantly, I worked on my mindset. I knew I couldn't go in there all guns blazing, fueled by rage. I had to stay calm, cool, and collected. I practiced my delivery, visualizing the confrontation, anticipating their responses. I channeled my inner dad, the real estate shark, the master negotiator. I was going to be polite but firm. Respectful but ruthless. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about every homeowner who'd been bullied by this HOA. I was ready to be their champion. My mom was my rock throughout this whole process. She helped me organize the documents, strategize, and most importantly, stay sane. She kept reminding me that I was right, that I deserved to be treated with respect, and that I had the power to win this fight. Having her in my corner was everything. I also consulted with a lawyer just to make sure I was on solid legal ground. Knowing I had professional backup gave me an extra boost of confidence. So, yeah, Reddit, that's how I prepared. I was armed with evidence, a solid strategy, and the unwavering support of my mom. I was ready to burn it all down. Okay, Reddit, the moment you've all been waiting for. The showdown. The next HOA meeting was held in the community clubhouse. It was packed, standing room only. All the usual suspects were there: Bob, the weasel president, Carol, the pink door enthusiast, and a whole gaggle of Karens and Kens, all eager to witness my public flogging. My mom and dad came with me. Mom, calm and collected, was my rock. Dad, well, he was just itching for a fight. Bob called the meeting to order, his smug little smile plastered on his face. He droned on about budgets and landscaping regulations, completely ignoring the elephant in the room, me. When he finally got to new business, I stood up, my stack of documents clutched in my hand. Every eye in the room was on me. You could hear a pin drop. Mr. President, I said, my voice calm and clear, I'm here to address the ongoing harassment I've been subjected to by this board. Bob chuckled condescendingly. Harassment, Mr. Ethan, I think you're exaggerating. We're simply enforcing the community rules. Rules, I countered, that have been selectively and unfairly applied to me. I have here documented proof of numerous procedural violations by this board, including the retroactive application of landscaping regulations and the issuance of false violation notices. I laid out the documents, one by one, on the table. The landscaping approval, the pink door violation, the eviction notice, the whole damn enchilada. I explained each violation in detail, citing the relevant sections of the HOA bylaws. The room was silent, except for the rustling of papers and the occasional gasp. Bob's smile started to falter. These are just misunderstandings, Mr. Ethan, he stammered. We're simply trying to maintain the aesthetic integrity of the community. Aesthetic integrity, I scoffed. Or is it personal vendetta? Perhaps you can explain why my perfectly legal shrubs and front door suddenly became a problem after I questioned the board's authority. Bob's face flushed red. That's preposterous, he blustered. We treat all homeowners equally. Really? I said, my voice rising. Then perhaps you can explain why no other homeowner in this community has received an eviction notice for landscaping violations. Or why Mrs. President here has been leading a smear campaign against me, showing pictures of my pink door to the entire neighborhood. Carol gasped dramatically. I was merely expressing my concern as a homeowner, she shrieked. By spreading lies and inciting harassment, I retorted. That sounds more like bullying than concern. The room erupted in murmurs. The Karens and Kens were starting to shift uncomfortably in their seats. The tide was turning. Bob banged his gavel. Order, order, he yelled, his voice cracking. Mr. Ethan, you're out of line. Am I said, my voice dropping to a low growl. Or are you just afraid of being exposed? I took a deep breath and then I dropped the bombshell. You see, Mr. President, I said, holding up a thick folder. My father, the real estate shark you so conveniently forgot about, taught me a thing or two about property ownership. He also taught me the importance of due diligence. I opened the folder and revealed the meticulously documented deeds to the undeveloped lots. It seems I own a significant portion of this community, Mr. President. Enough, in fact, to exercise considerable voting power within this HOA. The room went dead silent. You could have heard a mouse fart. Bob's face went white as a sheet. Carol's jaw dropped. The Karens and Kens stared at me, their eyes wide with shock and fear. So, I continued, my voice dripping with ice, I think it's time we had a little chat about the future of this HOA. And about the validity of those misunderstandings you mentioned earlier. And that, Reddit, is how I took back my power. The meeting devolved into chaos. Homeowners, emboldened by my stand, started voicing their own grievances against the board. Bob and Carol sputtered and stammered, trying to regain control, but it was too late. The dam had burst. The power dynamic had shifted. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the king. And they knew it. More to come later, this isn't over yet. Okay, Reddit, deep breath. The dust has settled, mostly, and I can finally give you an update on the HOA Hell saga. The immediate aftermath of that meeting was chaotic. Absolute pandemonium. People were yelling, some were cheering, Bob and Carol were practically in tears. It felt like a revolution, a tiny suburban coup d'etat. I had unleashed a kraken of homeowner rage, and it was glorious. A few people came up to me afterwards, thanking me for speaking up, for finally challenging the tyrannical reign of Bob and Carol. Others not so much. Some gave me the stink eye, muttering about troublemakers and property values. Turns out, not everyone appreciated the chaos, even if it was for the greater good. There were a few die-hard Bob and Carol loyalists who still thought I was the devil incarnate. Whatever, I can live with that. So how did it all resolve? Well, Bob and Carol, realizing they were completely outmaneuvered, tried to negotiate. They offered to drop the fines, repaint my door not pink, thankfully, and even reconsider the landscaping regulations. But I wasn't having it. I'd tasted blood, and I wasn't going to back down until justice was served. I told them I was consulting with a lawyer and exploring all legal options, including a class action lawsuit on behalf of all the homeowners who'd been unfairly targeted. That shut them up pretty quickly. It's been a few months now, and things have changed. Bob and Carol resigned from the board in disgrace. A new board was elected, made up of mostly reasonable people who actually seemed to care about the community. The ridiculous fines have been rescinded, the draconian rules are being reviewed, and Carol's beautification committee has been disbanded. Victory, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There's still some tension in the neighborhood. Some people still blame me for the upheaval, for stirring the pot. There's definitely a divide between those who supported me and those who didn't. It's like a mini Cold War, with awkward silences and pointed stares across the cul-de-sac. I'm still dealing with some of the fallout, like having to fix the pink door myself. They refused to pay for it, the cheapskates. As for me, I've changed. This whole experience has been a huge wake-up call. I realized I can't just sit back and let people walk all over me. I have to stand up for what's right, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's scary. I've learned the true meaning of knowledge is power. I've also learned that even in a seemingly perfect planned community, there are always going to be Karens, Kens, and power-hungry HOA presidents lurking in the shadows. You just have to be ready to fight them. So Reddit, what do you think? Have you ever dealt with a crazy HOA situation? Any tips for navigating this weird post-HOA war world? Because honestly, I'm still kind of shell-shocked. It's like I won the battle, but the war is still going on, just quieter. Any advice is appreciated.